So you've been applying to a lot of different positions, whether it be a current student and you're going for a co-op, practicum, internships, or you might be a new grad and you're hoping for a job soon. But since graduation or since maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and you've been applying to a lot of places, you haven't really been hearing back. And even when you do, you're not getting offers. And you're probably asking yourself, is the job market this hard right now in the middle of a pandemic? And the answer is yes. So in general, trying to find a job as a student is a very competitive process because there's a lot of students going for, finite small number of summer positions offered by organizations. So it's already a very competitive process in general. And then now you're adding on a layer of, a global pandemic where the job markets are down. A lot of organizations are slashing people. They don't have as much revenue. So the already pre-existing finite number of summer positions, for example, is probably going to be smaller than in previous years. And in the case of you're a new grad trying to find a entry-level job as your first step, again, there's already a lot of people who have been laid off. So you're now competing with people with a lot more years of experience that can offer a lot more for the same type of jobs that you might have, and you might be a new grad with very little experience. So again, the pandemic has caused this much more competitive market than in previous years. So if you're thinking to yourself, is the job market that hard right now? Am I having a really difficult time trying to find a job? Then the answer is yes, and your suspicions are correct. COVID has, really impacted the economy. A lot of businesses are losing revenue. So oftentimes what happens when they lose revenue is they start to see what are the efficiencies they can have within an organization or a company. So efficiencies here is about, what are the things I can do to save costs? This normally comes in the form of layoffs. If they normally have some sort of co-op program, for example, some companies and organizations will also, consider either ending and halting their co-op program indefinitely until they can bounce back. And a lot of people's jobs are on hold. So oftentimes companies and organizations are focusing on how to bounce back and improve their revenue, etc., etc. So they oftentimes don't really think about students anymore. And then in the case of organizations and companies that aren't really impacted by COVID, but their priorities might have shifted. So for example, a lot of hospitals are impacted by COVID in the sense that a lot of their staffing resources are now tackling COVID cases, whether it be in the ICUs or front lines, etc. So revenue-wise, they might not be down, but the priorities are definitely shifted towards the COVID population and how to, contain COVID cases. And, if you're going for hospitals that are affiliated with research institutes or universities and colleges, for example, and you want a research position with a hospital, these are, again, it's going to be a lot more scarce because, of course, they're going to be spending their time focusing on COVID. They may have halted their summer program because of institutional policies, or they may even have just issues with, considering how, yearly we get 200 summer students. And in the past, they were so used to having this in-person onboarding process, they probably haven't figured out whether they want summer students again for this summer, given the current climate that, cases will continue to climb in the coming months. So they probably are just not comfortable with the idea of having 200 summer students again, having to be on campus to onboard. Of course, a lot of other organizations have figured out a virtual onboarding process, but I think for the most part, especially if you're going for the science or health sciences fields, these are, concerns that a lot of organizations might have right now, the onboarding process and the fact that they need to focus more on COVID and less about the other stuff that, in general is considered optional. And finally, it also depends on the nature of the job that you're looking for. For example, if the job that you're looking for, traditionally has to be done on site. So for example, if you're doing research and all the lab equipment that is needed, it has to be on site. You have to go in person. And again, institutional policies might be a barrier right now in terms of posting summer positions, because a lot of organizations are really wanting their staff to work from home, limiting the amount of people that have to be on site, and at times they want to make sure that their staff is safe. So that may be another barrier in terms of whether or not organizations are even deciding whether or not they want summer programs, because again, if there are 200 summer students who are all research assistants, for example, that's 200 extra bodies in the research tower. And of course, that this is going to impact the transmission rate, etc. So there are a lot of things that COVID has really brought on to the forefront in terms of what organizations and companies need to consider. And the economy in general is very low. A lot of people have lost their jobs, so there's a lot more people in the job market right now trying to look for new careers, and also a lot of organizations have decided to lay off staff. So the consideration of hiring new staff, whether it be in the form of a part-time or a co-op student, is definitely off the table. So if you're a current student trying to look for a summer job or an internship or a practicum, or you're a new grad trying to look for a new job right now and you're finding a lot of difficulties, it is because of the pandemic. It is a much more competitive market right now, and you're definitely not the only one. The only tip I can have for you is to continue trying. Look, if you are having financial issues, look at what potential financial aids you can have access to, whether through your own government or through your university, etc. And definitely take this time, even if you can't find a summer job, for example, take this time to kind of, rethink what your career goals are, what your career interests are. It is a good time to do additional training or education, whether it be through online courses or, online websites for continuing education, like Coursera, for example. It's a very good time for you to upgrade any skills or anything in general that you always wanted to learn, but you've been too busy. This is a really good time for you to really upgrade, what experiences and skills you might have, so that, when we reach the end of the pandemic and the job market is doing a bit better and there's more positions being flowed into the market and in general less competitiveness, then these are good things for you to showcase to your future employers, so that you have a better shot of getting a future position that you already have in mind.